And cutting across to breaking news coming in, the hearing is underway on Hindenburg in the top court. The hearing is on the short sale. That is Hindenburg in the Supreme Court, where the Supreme Court is asking as to how we protect investors and how do we ensure big losses don't happen. Rhythm Anand Bhardwaj, our legal editor, with us on the broadcast. Rhythm, details from you on what's happening in the top court on the Hindenburg matter.
So the Supreme Court is as of now hearing a plea that is seeking a declaration that short selling is the offence of fraud and directions to investigate the founder of Hindenburg should be there for exploiting innocent investors. That is what the top court bench is hearing. This is a bench of Justice Chandrachud, Justice Narasimha and Justice Pardiwala who are hearing this. The petition began around 15 minutes ago when the court said that we want to point out to certain allegations. The Supreme Court asked the Solicitor General, who are you representing? He said, I'm representing Sebi. And then the bench began to discuss the matter, after which there are certain things that the bench has now come out and said. They said that they have brought an issue before the court, and the concern for Supreme Court is how do we ensure the protection of Indian investors? They said very clearly they're not going to do a witch hunt. They're asking, suppose as a result of the short sale, the value of the shares gets depressed depending upon the number of shares in the market, then we want to know how, if this is happening on a small scale, then it's no issue. But if it's happening to lots of investors, then that's an issue. The court is also asking questions as to how they can ensure in future there is a robust mechanism that's in place. Because today, they say the capital is moving seamlessly. Today, we have funds. You can move in and out of India. How do we ensure the investor is protected? So the big breaking news coming in from the Adani Hindenburg hearing in the top court is the court says we have to protect investors and say it's led to a loss of 10 lakh crores. How do we ensure it doesn't happen in the future? They're also asking Sebi what role it can play, because these days everybody's in the market. A very well thought of words coming in from the Supreme Court when it's trying to see beyond a certain point. They say we can't enter into policy domain. Can we contemplate of having a committee? So a lot of things that they're asking and stating, and the Supreme Court is trying to say they should not happen in the future. The hearing is continuing, but I must say once again we are seeing the top court extremely concerned about people, extremely concerned about how Indian investors will be working here, and also seeing whether they can work out a mechanism. At the same time, the hearing and the way it's going is very clear that the Supreme Court is not inclined to interfere in the domain of the executive, because they said we don't want to come into the way of the policy decisions that are being made by the government.
Right, Rhythm, stay on with us. Niranjan is also joining us from the Mumbai newsroom. Niranjan, pertinent questions being asked by the top court, because beyond the Adani Hindenburg fight, this is really about the larger interest of investors, and that is exactly what the top court is focusing on.
Well, that's correct. You know what's also happening is in the last 2 weeks, and you've been seeing the movement in the stock market, Suesha. Most Adani stocks today were trading in the red. In fact, we'll also pull up that stock tracker on the screen that will give you an idea of how the stocks are moving as far as the Adani Group stocks are concerned. But overall, the market not really impacted, because the Adani stocks are sort of decoupled from the market. So that apart, coming to the point, as Rhythm was saying, the court batting for the interest of the Indian investor, saying that if it is true that nearly 10 lakh crore has been wiped off as a fallout of such a report, what are the steps that can be taken is one of the questions that the court has asked. In fact, Rhythm, are you there? Rhythm? Okay, so let me just go through some of the observations of the court, just to tell our viewers what's happening inside. Suesha, as we speak, the court is hearing, and the court has given a few instructions, in fact, to Solicitor General Tushar Mehta, who's by the way representing Sebi in this case, and the court has said that how do we ensure in the future we have a robust mechanism in place to ensure that we don't have a situation where a Hindenburg research report comes in and that a huge investor wealth is wiped off the markets because of the impact of that particular report. The court is also saying how do we, ensure that there is a robust mechanism in place. Two, saying that, today funds are moving in seamlessly, capital coming in and out of India. How do we ensure that the investor is protected? The bench also making a note, the Supreme Court making a note of how it's led to a loss of 10 lakh crore, and how do we ensure as a nation that it doesn't happen again. And the court has asked what Sebi can do in this particular case, and asked Tushar Mehta, who's representing Sebi in the Supreme Court, the Solicitor General, who has also said, by the way, that the trigger point in the report is the report. He in fact says, Sebi says trigger point is the report, which is beyond our territorial jurisdiction, which is a very significant statement that is made by the Solicitor General, who's batting for Sebi, adding that there are regulations for some of the issues that the courts have discussed in the course of this hearing. And the court has also said very significantly, Suesha, that what we can have is some committee, that some thought process to get some input in terms of the government and what the government can do to take a call. And they eventually, as of now, the court is saying the government can take a call on something like this, whether some modification is required on the statute. Not just that, the court is also saying that beyond a certain stage, we won't enter the policy domain, because it really comes down to policy. But there should be a mechanism that it doesn't happen in the future. This is a call that the government has to take. So the Supreme Court saying that such a situation cannot arise where huge investor wealth is wiped off, and this is money of normal people, retail investors, small investors who put their hard-earned money in the markets, hoping that they make gains out of it. But when a Hindenburg comes in, and when there's a crash like the one we've seen in some of the Adani Group stocks, the court is worried about what really is happening. Not